Good stuff. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining me for another special health focus Tai Chi and Qigong class. Now, we are working on the 24 International Simplified Competition form, and we have got to the sequence called Grasping Bird's Tail, or Peng Lu Ji An. Last week, if you refer back to the recording, we looked at the specific and very accurately placed lower body positions. Today we're going to look at the upper body positions, integrate the two, and plow it back into the form. So let's take right hand in fist, please, left hand straight, pulling back that thumb with the feet together, the hands together, and we salute. Good. Just take your time, relax, open your stance. We'll just do a few wee rotations of the hips just to get the ball rolling. I always think that's quite funny because you want to think of a ball rolling inside your hips. Think of a little marble in one of those tracks rolling around the inside edges of your hips. You could have your hands level with your belly. If you wish, you could try turning your palms to face down. You can try these things now because they all have a different flavor. They all have a slightly different energetic outcome. You could, if you wish, have your hands on your hips, and that's quite useful if you feel unsure that you're coordinating quite right. We want to keep the hips level and not be tipping. Good. Or you could just dangle your arms down. I think any time I've been in the Grand Master's presence, he has done it like this. He's had his palms facing the Dandian, the Lao Gong points facing the Dandian. Let's change direction, please. However, his son, Chen Yunjun, has his arms dangling. And over the years, he may have changed that. I'm not sure. So even within the same system, even within the same family, literally the same family, you will have people who do things a little differently. Let yourself get into a wee rhythm, let your breath flow. I do this when I'm watching television rather than just lying on the sofa. If I have any energy left, I'll get up. Keep going, please, while I let someone in. Lovely. All right. Yeah, I'll get up and I'll do so many. I might count or I might just play it by ear. The body is actually incredibly good at measuring how much it has done on each side. It's a bit like a body clock, you know, your body will go, yeah, that was one too many, or needs more on the other side. So play with it, please. Maybe even time yourself and see how accurately you can go without actually counting. Good, let's come back into the center and we'll do a little twist of the waist. Welcome, welcome, if you're just coming in. Twisting the waist. There's different ways to do this. You can stay in a small high stance. If you feel you want to push the boat out, you can widen your stance. You can sit down a little bit. It's up to you. You could go wider, you could go deeper, you could really go for it. That's more martial training. Just to build strength and stamina. But you can keep it nice and high and gentle. But think of turning in the waist rather than the hips. I don't want to see this happening. See the difference? Yeah. Keep the hips facing forwards, turn gently inside the hips. And that can take some playing with. Good. You could try it seated, but you have to be a little careful to go very gently when you're seated so as not to strain yourself. Good, so now let's soften the movement. I'm really delighted to see that everyone's cameras is showing them the right way up this week. It was really interesting last week. Someone was upside down. Well done. Not sure if you did anything or just by turning the computer off and on again, it sorted it out. But that was interesting. It was a first. Good. So this exercise looks similar, and it is similar, but we want to really soften and emphasize listening. Not with your ears, but with your body, with your hands. Feel as if you were running your hands over the surface of water. You want to feel for the sensation, the resistance of air. And actually, air is a substance, and with enough listening, we call it tingjun in Chinese, you can actually start to feel it. You'll feel the air. Keep going, please. Folks are coming on in, which is great. You will feel the air flowing through your fingers, just like water flows around your fingers. Really nice sensitivity practice for your Tai Chi. Because remember, Tai Chi is what we call an internal martial art, which means it's all about awareness and sensitivity of what's going on inside the body. Good. And our physical structure, let's relax down. Our physical structure is that which can sense what's going on inside, but we're actually listening for the movement and the flow of energy inside our body. And interestingly, where the mind goes, the energy follows, and where the energy goes, the body follows. So by listening to different parts of our body, we are actually directing our energy. So it's as if we're listening to a trumpet playing, but the act of listening causes the trumpet to be played. So it's an interesting interplay. It's very subtle. And when we are listening into our bodies and we're feeling the energy flowing, that in turn brings power and strength to the structures. It brings more energy to the structures and therefore feeds the structures with the power they need to do their job more effectively. So this is the interesting, subtle interplay that is the practice of Tai Chi. So any exercise where you're listening, you're paying attention to what you can feel, what qualities are expressing themselves in your body, that's going to further develop that ability to interact and subtly influence, but therefore powerfully influence the system. Okay, so let's ease out of our stance, have a little shake out. We're going to do a little warm up for the legs. I don't know about where you are, but here it's pretty warm, but still we want to get moving. So we're just going to do a little row your boat movement. The movement is directed, as always, by your center. So think of a little wheel, like a hamster wheel, turning inside your belly. It's not that you're having to manipulate your belly in a weird or wonderful way. You're not. You're just pivoting and moving from that center point. Good. And let's swap over. Breathe. Relax. Now today I'm feeling a little bit rebellious. I'm going to show you an alternative leg stretch. And this is a nice one if you have balance issues, or if you're not so confident to lean forwards, maybe there's pain in leaning forwards. So we're not going to lean forwards today. I'd like you to bring your feet parallel, please. So they still have a bit of width, but they're both pointing forwards. And we bring the same side hand to front foot, to the thigh, the other hand to the waist, and just gently bend your front leg. Try to keep your heel down at the back and try to keep those hips square. If I let my hips drift, you can see what happens. The knee goes too far forwards and everything becomes uncomfortable. So if I pull my hips back to facing true to the front, like I had, what are those called? Headlights on my hips. I want the beams to be pointing forwards. That keeps my knee in check. So I'm bending the front leg. I'm keeping the leg almost straight, not straight. That's straight for me. That's too much. Almost straight. Little bend. Good. Now, if you're feeling a stretch, happy days. If you're not feeling a stretch, come up. Wiggle your front foot forwards a little bit, maybe a centimetre or two, and try again. Bend the front leg. Encourage the hip forwards with the hand on the waist. This back hand is guiding the hip forwards. Now breathe, relax. Are you feeling a stretch? If the answer is no, come up, wiggle forwards a bit more, and try again. Don't be going big steps forwards because a centimetre can make all the difference. We encourage the hip forwards, we keep breathing. Good, and release. Good, now if it was too much, what do? Walk the feet in. You walk the feet in, you come back. Especially if you've had, say, a hip replacement, if you've had major surgery, if you've had an injury, we're working to feel a gentle stretch, but never a strain. So for example, if you had just had surgery, that same position, you might be here. That might be as far as is comfortable, and that's fine. And then you can just bend that front leg a little bit. Do you remember Peng Lu Ji An? We never let the knee go beyond the toe. That's true in all Tai Chi. When it comes to bow stance, we never want to see that happening. The knee beyond the toe is bad news. But if you are working with injury, take a smaller stance and don't go as far. Good, let's recover, ease out of the stance, shake out. Let's do the same thing on the other side. Now I'm going to face you this time. So we have a comfortable step forwards, we square the hips, try to keep the feet parallel. We bring the same side hand as foot, front foot to the thigh, the other hand to the hips, and we just gently encourage the hips forwards as we bend the front leg. So you're encouraging the back leg, hip forwards so that it doesn't drift back. Good, keep breathing, relaxing. If you want, you can ease out of it, take a break for a moment, and relax, sigh back into it. Again, if you feel you're not getting a stretch, come up a little bit, wobble your foot forwards a little bit, and try again. And again, you can keep doing that, just walking forwards bit by bit until you feel you're getting a decent stretch. If it feels too much, if your body is panicking, dial it back, come back in. Good, well done, and release and walk your feet back in. Lovely, easing from your stance, a little bit of a trot on the spot. You can even let your hips ding dong either side. Well done. Now I'd like to show you a lower leg stretch. You may have felt that that was stretching the calf muscle. For me, I get more of a stretch across the hip in that exercise. So now I'm going to show you a nice little Achilles stretch, again for if you are not wanting to bend your body forwards. There could be multiple reasons, who knows why, but if you don't want to do that, there is an alternative. There's a nice version where you can just stand with your, how do I do this? Stand with your balls of your feet on the lowest step of your stairs, the lowest step, no other step, and let your heels just sink below the line of the step while holding onto the balustrade so that you're really safe. And you can do that with both feet, with dropping the heels, and then if you wanted to get more of a stretch, you could hook one foot around the ankle like so and just let the heel of the supporting foot sink, sink below the step, and that gives a really nice Achilles stretch as well. But if you don't have any props, if you don't have any steps, I'm going to show you a nice wee stretch. So again, take a comfortable step forwards, please. It doesn't have to be big. Same side, one hand to the thigh, one hand to the hip, bend the front knee, not going beyond the tips of the toes. Breathe and relax, encourage the hip forwards. And now gently bend the back knee, just a little bit. And be careful to keep the back heel down on the floor. Good, keep breathing, relaxing. Do you notice any stretching? And now we're going to add to that stretch by very gently gliding the weight back into the back leg. And keep breathing. Good, and recover, easing out of the stance and shaking out. If you did not feel much of a stretch, what you can do is take a slightly bigger step forwards. The same is true. It'll give you a better stretch. So let's do it on the other side. We take a nice comfortable step forwards. Keep the feet parallel. One hand to thigh, one hand to waist. Square the hips, bend the front knee. Keep the heel down at the back. Keep breathing. Relaxing into the stretch. If you don't feel much of a stretch, come up, wiggle forwards, do it again. And when you're ready, bend the back knee just a little bit. Now, the bigger your stance, the less you'll be able to bend the back knee. So it may be a centimetre, maybe a little bit more or less. And now glide your weight back into the back leg. Do you feel the stretch gliding down the lower leg into the Achilles, into the ankle? Well done, easing up, and walk your feet gently in a little trot on the spot. Let's just do a little stretch for the body, and then we will get started into our 24 form. Okay, so let's open our stance to the sides. We lengthen up. And we're going to reach through the shoulder as if a giant is lifting you up by the wrist. And now stretch the other hand down the side seam of the leg and lengthen the top arm up to the opposite corner. Look up past your palm, past your fingers, and breathe. Good, and recover. Well done. On the other side, we lift. Lengthen through the shoulder as if a giant is lifting you by the wrist. Slide the opposite hand down the side seam of the leg and look up past the fingertips. Keep breathing. Well done, and recover. Very good, easing from your stance. So where we look and how we look, how we use our eyes, also affects our energy. It actually gives us structural strength. It's an odd thing, but if you gaze with focused intent into the distance, it makes your arm or your position stronger than if you just look in front of you. So there's a nice little test, like a kinesiology test almost, a muscle strength test, where you can lift your arm out in front of you and just try and hold it as strongly as you can and get someone to gently push it down. And then you can think of looking into the distance a mile away and extend your arm and ask someone to push your arm down. And you will notice that actually it's much stronger when you focus with an intense gaze into the distance. It actually makes a difference where you look. And that's very important when you think of martial arts. If you're punching somebody, please don't punch somebody, but if you punch them by looking them in the face, you'll have so much strength. If you punch them looking into the distance with focus, much more strength. So be careful with that. People have done massive damage, thankfully not in my classes, but I have heard of folks just doing very good martial arts, applying it perfectly, but not then realizing their own strength and having done serious damage to people. So very useful in life or death situations, not so good if you're doing a little bit of light sparring. Anyway, let us now have a look at our 24 form. Okay, we're going to start just by walking through the whole form up to, and why not, let's include Hung Luji and Grasping Bird's Tail. I'll just ask you to follow and see how you get on. We're not going to focus on everything up into and including for the rest of the class, but just to put it in context, and let's see if you remember what we've done so far. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing together. Follow as best you can, please. Feet together, and we float up. The chin slightly down and back. Take a few moments to breathe and calm and relax down. Listen through your body, into your feet, and let go. Listen behind you. Ready? Let's release through belly, hips, and knees. Open to the left. Transfer weight. Raising the water, we breathe in and we float up to feel to the tips of the fingers. Look into the distance, release, breathing out. Relax the belly. Let that draw the arms down and into right hug ball. Let's step a little bit back as we step to the side, turning on the heel and fix straight away the back foot. Separate wild horse's mane 3 times. Stay forwards, take a half step with the back foot, feed the weight back, left hug ball, right arm up, left arm down, release and reposition the front foot. Old cat washes its face, point to the elbow, bring the front foot in. If you need more space, take it for 3 more steps forwards. We step, press the arms down, brush knee, and push. Relax to center. 1, turn and draw in. Step 2, 3, relax to center, stay forwards, take a half step, feed the weight back, right shoulder back, left arm up, and relax down onto the heel. For 4 steps back, we drop the toe down, draw front foot, back hand in, step, weight back, fix the front foot. Now I realize I'm off screen, there we go. Reach to the corner, draw in, step, heel in, toes in, reach, draw in, step, heel in, toes in. Last time, reach, draw in, step, foot down, toes in. Now I need a little more space. Good. So we're going to turn to face the front. We do this by keeping the weight back. If you can comfortably lift the heel just off the ground so that you can turn on the balls of the foot, bringing the arms underneath and up into right hug ball, bringing the left foot in. Now, grasping bird's tail, we step to the side, slightly back. Turn left toes, turn right toes, hung. Feet all the way forwards, throw the ball away, roll it back, all the way back. Open towards the front and square up. Press second bow stance, third bow stance. feed the weight back and relax down. We come underneath, up and away. Just follow. We haven't broken it down yet, but let's try it. Feed the weight back, turn on the heel. Just leave your arms floating in front. Feed the weight left, gather right for left hug ball. We step to the side and slightly back. We turn on the heel and we fix the back foot straight away to 45 so that you can see. Good. Throw the ball away, catch it, roll it back, open towards the front and square up. To second bow stance, to third bow stance. Empty stance as we go over the wave and underneath, up and away. And for now, let's just bring the back foot in and rest. Beautiful, well done. Okay, now you may not feel confident yet with everything we've just done. And I know with the back view, if you're not sure, that's, yeah, there's a lot of question marks, but don't worry about it. We can refer back to earlier videos, and I would encourage you, refer back to the videos and just build your confidence, even just playing them in the background and go, oh, that's the bit that I need to work on, and join in then. And you will see there is a transcription in the YouTube videos, which means everything I say is typed automatically by the, I don't know, the imps inside the computer. Don't know how they do it, but they do it. They might not always get a brilliant translation, and I've heard some friends, they were very glad they checked at the transliteration because the computer had misheard quite a few things. But anyway, it'll give you an idea. You can scroll down and see the time, the time tag, so that you can go, oh right, so you don't have to go through an entire class, you can just home in on something. If you would like a specific movement clarified, let me know and I will video myself doing just that movement for you, and I will share that on the WhatsApp group. So we want you to have the best opportunity to get as much out of this as possible. So let's now have a look. We'll remind ourselves of last week's focus was on first bow stance, second bow stance and third bow stance, as well as empty stance. I hope you have been practicing that, or even just writing it down for yourself can help. So let's have a quick reminder. First bow stance is not far forwards at all. The knee is above the center of the foot. Now, in the order that we're doing this form, this sequence, we don't go 1, 2, 3. We go straight into third bow stance, which is the knee above but not beyond the tips of the toes. And be careful because your shoes go beyond the tips of your toes. So you may be tempted to go as far as the shoes. Don't. Go as far as the tips of your toes only. Now we go back to empty stance. That means all the weight is back. But do you notice my front knee is bent? It has not gone straight like so. That's very brittle. If you do it wrong, you'll feel it. Not nice. Keep the knee bent. We open, we square up, and we go to second bow stance. Second bow stance is knee above the knuckles of the foot, so not quite as far as the tips of the toes. Now we go all the way to third bow stance, tips of the toes, feed the weight back, empty stance, relax down. Again, keep the front knee bent. We come up and we send it away. So don't worry about the arms for now. You can waft your arms around with me, but let's see if we can clarify and re-establish those 3 stances. Ready? We step, turn the feet, make sure the back foot has turned to 45. First bow stance, above the center of the foot. Third bow stance, all the way back, empty stance. Second bow stance, third bow stance, empty stance. all the way to third bow stance. Let's do it again. Feed the weight back, cast the net, right hug ball. I'm going to move forward so I'm not off screen. Ready? We step, turn, turn, first bow stance, all the way forwards, throw away, third bow stance, roll back, empty stance, open to the front, square up, second bow stance, third bow stance, empty stance, over the wave, under the wave, third bow stance, all the way back, cast the net, hug ball, step, turn the feet, turn, turn. First bow stance, third bow stance, empty stance. Open and square up, second, third, empty, third, and rest. Well done. Good. So that little exercise, I just wanted you to get into the rhythm and to the order of the bow stances that we practiced last week. So it might be quite nice for you if you have a pen and paper, grab it now, and we will just write that sequence down just for the legs before we go on to the upper body movements. Okay, so take your time, don't panic, relax and breathe. Okay, so there are 3 bow stances and empty stance. Okay, so the first part, I'll do it, you write it down if you want. So, Pung is in first bow stance, and you can make a note to yourself or even draw a picture if you like of the knee position. Pung, first bow stance. Now we have Lu, which means roll back, but the start of Lu is actually going forwards. So Lu begins with third bow stance, that's the throwaway part, and then we roll back to empty stance. So that's all the weight on the back foot, but keeping the front knee slightly bent. All right, so Lu is third bow stance, empty stance. Then we move on to G. G, we open to the front and square up. No change, we're still on the back foot. And we go into second bow stance. So we feed forwards until we're above the knuckles of the foot. That's G. So G starts in empty stance and finishes in second bow stance. Finally, we have An. We go all the way forwards to third bow stance, all the way back to empty stance, and all the way forwards again to third bow stance. So An is third, empty, and third. And that's the whole sequence. Then you have the little linking step, often referred to as casting the fishing net. And literally you just kind of leave your arms where they are. You can extend forwards a little as your body goes back as a counterbalance. And then it is literally like you're casting fishing nets. You're just turning the waist and that swings the arms. So we're staying in the right. Let me see. So we feed the weight back into the right, we stay in the right as we turn, and then gather right hand and foot in as we take the weight left. And then it's the whole sequence exactly as we just did, but on the other side. So we step, turn, turn, right, left, bow stance, first bow stance for Pung. Third for Lu, empty. Stay back to begin G and press into second bow stance, all the way forwards to third, all the way back for Lu, up, and again all the way forwards for An. Good, and rest. Good, so hopefully that is really nice and clear. You can use it almost like a mantra. First, third, empty, second, third, empty, third. I know it's not exactly illuminating, but it'll help you get the positioning right. Good, so I feel we've covered the legs well. Let's look at the arms. Now, I think we started looking at the arms last week. Again, you have pen and paper with you, so you can write these down if you wish. Pung means to expand. And when we use the word pung, it can actually be used in two different ways, though they both mean expand. One is like in grasping bird's tail, which is a move. It's a physical action. But it can also mean the natural expansion of our physical structure when we are energizing our body. So that would be like when we're in Wuji and we're stretching our fingers down, and before long you'll notice that the arms bounce away from the body. Without you carrying them, they're bouncing away. You feel buoyant. That also is pung. It's a different physical expression, but it has the same root. It means to expand. So this is a physical action, pung. One hand opposite the throat, one hand opposite the elbow. It is round and it is contained, and it always, pung is square on. So you would not do pung to someone to your side, you would actually square your body to them. So that's part of the nature of pung, is we square up to get into pung. It's a frontal protection or attack, pung. Okay? All right, so Lu, you can see the top hand in pung is facing in and the lower hand in pung is facing out. I often think of it like you have a sheet of paper and you're holding it with one hand and you have the other hand kind of resting on it. That's the feeling of pung. So one hand facing in, one hand facing out. Lu is like you're throwing a ball. You flip your hands over as you feed the weight forwards. Do you see that? I'll show you again. So you feed the weight forwards into third bow stance and the hands flip. So as if you're holding a ball, you throw the ball. So your palms are still facing in as if the ball was just in your hands. Throw. Yeah, so we still have yin-yang palms, but it started one palm in, one palm out. Now it's one palm facing 45 degrees down and the other palm facing 45 degrees up. Do you see that? Yeah, so pung. Lu begins square. We're square on to the direction we're facing, and we feed the weight back, and it continues to be square most of the way. And this means smooth down or roll back. So you can think of smoothing down a sheet on a washing line. One hand smoothing the top and the one hand underneath or round the back of the sheet, and you're smoothing it down. But as the body goes back and as the arms are at about 70% of their way back, they're not at 100%, they're about 70% back, that's when we change direction. We redirect by turning the waist, and that brings the arms to reach, the fingers reach towards the front of the room, very briefly before we square up and leave the, draw the hand that is closest to the front of the room in, to prepare for G. And do you see that? The G position, the palm is facing the wrist. And it's not quite touching. G does not need to be physically pushing, but rather as if you're pressing a little ball of energy against your wrist. So let's think of that again. We've done pung. You're my front. Pung, we step. So it's an expansion, but it's quite contained and it's square. My hips are square, my body is square. Lu, we flip the hands as if throwing a ball, we're still square. And because the left leg is forwards, my left leg is forwards, the left arm should also be forwards. Because my right leg is back, the right arm should also be back. So I'm about level with my elbow there. Okay, so I roll back, keeping square until I'm about 70% of the way back, and then I open towards the front and square up to hold a little ball of chi against the wrist. Now let me show you that facing you. Okay, so there's a lot to this, and I'm trying to get it all into one class, and I really feel that Penglu Jian is about a month's worth of work if we were to really give it its, you know, its full what it deserves. So anyway, so if I'm coming towards you, I'm squaring up, Peng. I'm throwing the ball, flipping the hands, and I'm rolling back towards me. Now when the arms are at about 70%, but the weight is already back, I'm opening towards my front, which is over here, and one arm will extend further. One arm is across the body, one arm is open. The arm that is open circles in as we square up. So it should feel quite natural. The arm that's open circles in, and the arm that's across the body just sort of continues to hold its shape. So there we have the preparation for Ji. Do you notice that my arms are asymmetrical now? I'm not here, I'm here. Yeah? So the arm that is across in front of the chest is about level with the nipple line. And the arm that is bracing, if you like, with that little ball of energy, the elbow is slightly dropped. And there's a reason for that. Relax, please. Good. Ease out of your stance. So if you think of plywood, I know it's just random, right? Plywood. So lots of layers of thin slivers of wood glued together to create a very strong structural item, a strong piece of wood. Their wood has fibers, so the way they make plywood, they'll layer one layer down with all the fibers going in the same direction. But the next layer, they don't do the same direction because that would make it only strong in one direction. So they actually layer the wood, each layer with the glue at different angles so that it becomes very strong in all directions. And the same is true when it comes to martial arts. So if I were to press like this, try it please, stick your elbows out to the sides and bring your hands to your wrists. You see there? Hands to wrists. And try pushing forwards. What you'll notice is there is a kind of weak feeling in the wrists especially. There's no strength there. Now keep one arm straight across, but this time drop the elbow to about 45 degrees of the hand that's bracing. And for the purposes of this exercise, you can touch. You don't have to hold the chi ball. Now press. You feel the difference? Vast difference. So parallel is weak. Asymmetrical is actually much, much more strong and structural. So Ji is not like this. Ji is like so. One arm straight across, that's your sort of pushing surface, if you like, to ward someone off, to push them away. The other hand behind is there. Even though it's holding a chi ball, it's still giving you really strong structure. Now, why don't we touch? Why do we just have that little ball of energy? Because we want to focus on the internal. Do you remember at the beginning of class we talked about this? We want to feel and influence the internal flow of what's going on. Whereas if you touch one hand to the opposite wrist, all you will feel is that connection, that physical connection. Whereas if you're not quite touching, but you're holding the structure, you can feel when your energy, when your structure is strong, because you're not just bombarded by sensory information of touching your wrist. So it is more advanced not to touch. I'll admit when I started doing Tai Chi, I would touch for about, I don't know, just under a decade. But I think you can just level up and not worry about going through that physical stage. Just stay a little bit away from the wrist. Don't actually touch, but feel for the presence, feel for the energy between the hand and the wrist. If you really don't feel anything and if you're confused and lost, okay, plant your hand to your wrist. But let's look at it again. I'm going to do it facing you. I'm going to do this side. You can mirror if you like. If it's confusing, you can just watch, whatever you like. Ready? So we pung, it's square. Okay, one hand level with throat, one hand level with elbow. We flip the palms into third bow stance, throw your ball, catch it, and roll your weight back, smoothing back and down, a soft and gentle movement. The hips are square, but as we finish that last 30% with the arms, we turn the waist, we open the arms, and we fold the hand in and drop the elbow a little bit. Good, so you're in that nice strong position, you've got the cushion of energy. Now we expand square, but a little bit further. So this is G. It is more a direction than just expanding. We are expanding forwards, but fill your back. Good, so that's G. One arm straight across and one arm at a slight angle. Now we go all the way forwards and the palms just turn to face down, fingers extending forwards. You're in third bow stance. We feed the weight back, the arms come over the crest of the wave and sink down. You should really feel like all your energy is really like raring to go, like a wound up spring on the back leg. So we feed it back up the leg, back up the spine, and out it goes. Good. Notice at the end, we just have the palms 70% extending, even though you're in third bow stance, and the fingers still pointing up. Now, if you wanted to, relax. If you wanted to throw someone away, push someone away, then you could decide what direction you want them to go in. So if you wanted to push them to the floor, again, please don't do this unless you have to, unless you're put into a compromising position. But if you're pushing them away and you want them to go down, you finish by dropping your fingers to the floor. So where our mind goes, our energy follows. Where our energy goes, our body follows. But we can direct other people's energy by directing our fingertips and our eyes. So if you want them to go down, you send them down with a flick of the fingers at the end, downwards. If you wanted to just send them away, you would continue to send them away by pointing with the fingers, extend the fingers in the direction you want them to go, and look in the direction a mile away to where you want them to go. No need for violence. You can do this very softly, very gently. It will still direct energy. If you're making physical contact with someone, your energy, your direction influences their energy and their direction very easily without force. You can just send them away. If you wanted to make them go up, you would send the fingers up at the end. So you'd feed the weight forwards and have the fingers pointing up a little bit at the end. But for the purposes of the choreography at the end of the movement, we finish with the fingers gently still pointing up. And the reason for that is it gives us a perky energy while still being relaxed. So the fingers direct the energy up, but the heels of the hands encourage the energy to sink, so we get a balanced energy within ourselves. Now, just to finish this thought off, and be careful when you're doing and, it is like a wave. You're going over and under and up and away. The body goes into empty stance. That's all the way back. The arms do not go all the way back. They go 70%, leaving 30% left. If you went all the way back, you would lose all strength. You see that? There's no strength in the arms. So we want to keep that little curve so that there is power. Yeah. So think of the body like a whole bunch of hose pipes. If there's a kink in the hose pipe, the water can't flow. So look at the kink in my elbows there if I bring my hands all the way back. It's very extreme. It's locked. I'm locking myself. But if I keep my arms slightly extended, I keep my power. Okay, so that is Peng, Lu, Ji, and An. I've gone over lots of details. Why don't we finish with just a couple of minutes of flowing through Peng, Lu, Ji, An together. We'll try it facing each other. I know it's a bit confusing, but try it, and then we'll try facing the sides. So let's take right hug ball. I'm mirroring, so you're right. Very good. And we step. And we square up. Peng. Throw the ball away, all the way forwards. Roll it back, all the way back. Open. And draw the open hand in. Ji. Second bow stance. All the way forwards, palms face down. Third bow stance. All the way back, arms 70% come underneath. Up and away. Good, feed the weight back. Think of casting the net, but for now we'll just take hug ball because we're leaving out the turn. And same on the other side. We step, Peng, square. First bow stance. Throw the ball away, flip the hands, roll it back, feed the weight all the way back. Open to the side. The open hand circles in. Press Ji, second bow stance, third bow stance, all the way back, arms 70%, come underneath, up and away. Good, and you can do this as a drill. You can just keep going one more time each side. Peng. Throw the ball away. Catch it, roll it back. Open to the side, square up. Press Ji, all the way forwards, all the way back. Not quite as far with the arms. Underneath, up and away. Feed the weight back. Hug ball. Last time, ready, and Peng. Lu. Ji. An. And rest. Well done. Take a breath. And we'll keep doing a little bit of showering with energy. Feel the breath. Let the breath carry the movement. It's quite difficult doing complex movements to listen and feel for the subtleties going on within. So it's always nice to finish with a very simple movement so that you can again connect with those more subtle experiences inside the body. One more time, please. Take a deep breath. Suspend your breath at the top. Press your fingers into the sky. Press your toes into the earth. Think of sealing in your good energy. And now release and guide your hands to cover center. Check posture. Top of the head floating up. Chin slightly down and back. Releasing the shoulders down. Feel for the touch of your hands, guiding your awareness into your center. And feel your energy is stronger. Folks, very well done. Thank you so much for coming and working so hard today. We have been doing more physical work in this class than we have for several years. So I hope that you're enjoying it, and I hope that you are embracing the concept of do what you can and rest when you need to. We can learn a lot just from watching, just from paying attention. The penny will drop. Tai Chi is a slow burn. It is not something to be learned in a weekend, but rather lifelong learning for continuous health development. Thank you so much. Let's take right hand in fist, left hand straight, pull back the thumb, with feet together, hands together. We salute. Thank you, and see you next time.